Hello and welcome to Comic Culture. I'm Terrence Dollard, a professor in the Department of Mass Communication at the University of North Carolina at Pembroke. My guest today is artist Mike Deodato. Mike, how are you today?
Doing good, thank you.
Mike, you've had a long career in American comics, but you are talking to me today from Brazil. So could you tell me how you got your foot in the door of American comics?
About in 1991, somebody had the idea to make an agency in São Paulo, Brazil, to represent Brazilian artists in US. So they called me. I already had a name doing fanzines and independent comics in Brazil. So I started doing comics for small companies like Malibu, Innovation, Clips, Continuity, all that. And then I the same way I did in Brazil, climbing my way to the biggest companies, I did in US too. Until I had my great chance with Wonder Woman 1994 for DC Comics. It was a long career, but nobody knew me.
And that run on Wonder Woman is one of those iconic runs from the 90s. As I recall, Wonder Woman has a new costume. And I was wondering if you were part of the team that came up with that new look.
No, I wish I was. I love it. But it was Brian Boland who had the idea. My contribution to Wonder Woman was to make her look more like comics in the 90s, the image way of doing comics. Women very powerful, very sexy. And so I saw image books. I got in love with the work of Jim Lee and Mark Silvestri, and I wanted to bring it to DC and Marvel. When they left Marvel, I think everything was too stale there, DC too. So I wanted to bring that energy to Wonder Woman, and people loved it. In I think 3 months, the sales quadrupled. And after 1 year in the book, Marvel hired me to give me an exclusive contract. And then I spent 24 years there.
That's amazing that 1 year on a flagship character is enough to get the competition to sign you up for 24 years of exclusive work. Now, when you are working on a comic like Wonder Woman, I'm assuming there's a bit of a language barrier. You and I are speaking today, but I'm imagining, conversational is a little bit different than, let's say, a DC-style script, which is full panel descriptions and dialogue and everything. So was there any sort of barrier that you faced because of that language difference?
Lucky for me, the agency that represented me back then, they provided me full translated script. So I never had to talk to any editor or anything like that. But even if this condition, there were problems. Like for instance, there was a scene in Wonder Woman where I was supposed to create a character very strong that looked like Lobo the character, the very strong. But when I thought they were referring to the animal, the wolf. So it was supposed to be in armor and look like Lobo. So I drew a robot, wolf-like robot. Because of the translation, it was bad. So, but it was okay. It was difficult. With time, I decided to learn English to control my own career and take my own decisions. I'm still learning, but back then it was one of the things I did because I worked so much in the 90s that at the end of the 90s, nobody wanted to be anymore because the quality of the work had fallen down a lot. So I decided it was time to reflect, to make changes. So I learned English. I fired my agents. I decided to do just one book a month and to care about quality instead of quantity. And the results, I would get more money in the end, but it was not my goal then. And that's some resolution I follow to this day. Just to work less with more quality, and every decision I make in my career is based on if I'm feeling happy, satisfied with the work.
You had mentioned that you created this wolf character instead of the DC character Lobo. So my question is, if you have to make corrections, in the 90s, you were sending your art physically to DC, but now you can work on a computer or scan your artwork. So if you had to make corrections, would that be something that they would send back to you, or would you have to create all new pages?
Well, probably we communicated via fax, and it was FedEx coming in and go. So it was 3 days coming and go. So they probably would send me a fax of the page with saying where the correction was. If they sent me the page, I would make the correction and send the page back. If not, I would make a paste up and send to them they make the correction in the office. But it was very hard. I remember I did a cover for The Beauty and the Beast, completely painted with airbrush, and the mail never arrived there. So I had to do another one exactly the same and send it again. The cover. It was hard.
I'm sure you're glad that the modern age we're able to just scan or work digitally and send the files that way. It must speed up your process quite a bit.
A lot. That's why I decided it was 2010, I guess. I decided to migrate to digital only. At first I thought I'm gonna do half of the book traditional on paper and half digital, but then I enjoyed so much. It was so much faster. Then I decided to stay, and I'm like 3 times faster. But instead of using to do more books, I use it to my free time to go to the gym, stay with family, to read books, watch movies. So this way I can recharge my brain and I can use it back on my art. It took me time to learn this balance that anytime I use on my mind, on my brain, and to have fun, it's not a waste of time. It's good for me, it's good for my art in the end. So it took time, but I learned.
And it must be a challenge finding that balance between working all the time and a social life, a family life, a chance to get out and do that exercise. So when you're in the studio now, I'm sure the family knows that when you're working, not to bother you. But how do you kind of make sure that you're not spending too much time on that page so that way you can go off and maybe see a movie or go to the gym?
I make a goal to make 1 page a day if I can. If I'm not, I don't worry. I do what I can, but by 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, I stop, and then I go and then watch a series, and I stop the day. And usually every time by 5 p.m., not today because of you, but I do exercise, I do karate. So I have to stop to have time to my family. I have to stop to play karate. I have to stop to watch a movie in the end of the day. And in the middle of that, I plan to do a page. If I can't, whatever I did my best. Of course, if there is an emergency, then okay, I forget everything and I do the page. But nowadays, because I'm doing creator-owned work, so I'm like my own boss. So I decide. I only obey to the deadlines that my credit card tells me. So
you mentioned that you study karate. I'm just wondering if studying a martial art like that has helped you with the fight choreography in your comics.
Yeah. Although it's like you see the Bruce Lee movies. in a real life, he wouldn't do those kicks very large, those movements very. He would be much more economic, more. How can I say? He would fight tight, not giving chance to the guy to grab your arm or your leg. But since comics is a medium that has no movement, sometimes you have to make the guy give a kick very cinematographic, very beautiful, not efficient, but beautiful. So I try to balance between a real fight with real movements and the ones that bring the energy that you pass to the reader, the feeling that he's watching a very action scene with a lot of movement. And so it's all more about feeling than real thing. I was watching that 3-hour movie, the Irish guy, I don't remember, in Netflix. It's one with Robert De Niro. And at some point, I noticed that he was pass close to a guy and do this fight in a very short movement. He go. Oh, this is fantastic. That's how you do. You don't want to be noticed. In comics or other movies, you do like this. I'm gonna shoot him, and then it works so well. So you have to decide what's the best way. Comics like, for instance, Stray Bullets from, forgot the name. He executes the choreography of fights very real, and it works. So it's a lesson for me that sometimes I can put real movements and make it work in comics. So you have to make decisions to how to pass the feeling the story needs.
Stray Bullets is a great noir comic where it's kind of gritty and very realistic, very different from, let's say, a Marvel or DC superhero. So yeah. When you're working for Marvel or DC, or now for your own own projects, are you sort of tailoring the fights based on the style or genre of the comic?
Yeah, it depends on the style, the genre. It wouldn't work. I'm working. My newest book is being publishing right now. It's The Fourth Man. It's a crime book, and it's in the 90s. It's a very realistic book, so it wouldn't work for me to make the fights or the running scenes with the guys too much. I have to make it to contain myself, to make the story works. If not, it's not gonna fit the feeling I'm trying to transmit. So depending on the genre, on the story, I decide what is better. Because in the end, I want to tell the best way to tell the story. So if I put more panels, if I put angles, those fisheye angles, it has to be to have a motive for me to put that. It can be gratuitous. It has to be a reason. I cannot distract the reader unless the script asks for it. But I want to keep the reader immersed in the story. If I do something too strange, angle too much, so this kind of story asks for normal angles, like you are watching it through the eyes of another character. It doesn't mean I cannot be creative, but I cannot be too creative in this kind of story. So every story requires a different approach.
And you mentioned that you are doing creator-owned series at AWA for their Upshot imprint. So how did you sort of get started there and move from Marvel to, I guess, from security at Marvel to more of a risk but a higher reward with AWA?
Well, the boss is the same. It's Axel Alonso was my boss at Marvel, and he's still my boss. He's one of my best friends in business. So when I tried to create comics for mainstream and to create comics creator-owned at the same time, but it didn't work. I did it with Berserker Unbound while I was working at Marvel. Instead, I was doing 6 pages a day for Marvel, and then I decided, okay, I'm going to do 2 more in the weekends, and then I can finish this book in 1 year. And I almost killed myself in the process. That's when I realized it's impossible. It's easier for a writer because he can do 10 books a month. He can write, okay, next 2 pages is a fight between 2 armies, and go draw and then go home. We have to draw it. So I decided it was time to leave Marvel. So I left Marvel, and when I announced it online, Axel heard and contacted me. Oh, I'm doing this company, and he didn't have to sell it to me because he's my friend. I trust him. He's a great professional, one of the best editors. So I went there, and I'm happy. I did so far. I did The Resistance. It's with their characters, but different from Marvel and DC. I have a stake on if it becomes a movie or something. Instead of just the name of the credits, I have a name on a check. And after that, I did creator-owned only. Bad Mother, Redemption, Not All Robots, The Fourth Man. I'm already working on another one, and I did another one too, not announced yet. I'm so happy. It's completely different genres and situations. It's like at Marvel, I was doing perfect human beings with powers and beautiful people, and at AWA, I'm doing people with no power, old people with no shape at all, and but great stories, human stories, fantastic writers. Although even though it's an independent company, we have the best of 2 worlds. We have great talents, not so known from public, and big stars like Stravinsky and a lot of people. I forgot everyone, but myself, okay. So it's been a blast. Every project is different with different genre, and I'm loving it. I'll have to be kicked out to leave AWA.
Now, you mentioned that these are books of different genres, different styles. As an artist, is that I guess it would be something that would always give you a new challenge that you would welcome, rather than maybe staying on the Wolverine book or the X-Men book for a prolonged period, because you do get the chance to just do different things and try different styles. Is that something that you've been able to do? Just kind of maybe one's going to be a post-apocalyptic story, or one could be a crime drama, and just play with those different art styles?
Yeah, that's the thing I like best. The thing is, I drew only at Marvel. I drew superheroes for 24 years, only at Marvel, not counting DC and other in my time in Brazil or Image and other. So it's enough. I still love superheroes, but I wanted to try something else. And at AWA, we do books like season 1 of Not All Robots, 5 issues. Maybe we do another one, depending on the answer of the public. But it's completely there. It could be finished there, and then I jump to another book with a Western or a crime book, or so it's fantastic. And then, there are great scripts. Usually Axel presents me like 3 scripts for me to choose. I came up with this terrible what's the word, analogy, like because in comic book creator owned stuff, we meet each other at conventions or internet. Hey, let's do a book together. Let's do and try, like I did with Berserker Unbound. I met Jeff Lemire while I was doing panels. We like each other. We did the book together. And it was great. At AWA, I think Axel works like a matchmaker. he knows what I like best. Hey, we want to go on a date with, Jeff McConsey. Then we go out and we have a baby that is the fourth man. You're never gonna read a book, our book, after this analogy, but if it works this way, because he knows what I like best, he knows the best one, so it makes a way to meet and create great books. So it's fantastic. Also, they are making an example on how to treat the creator better. When this NFT thing came and Marvel and DC put their foot on forbidding creators to sell the original digital art of their work, I complained online and AWA got my back, and they paid the best rates up front. They showed it's possible to make a company make money and still respect the creators and pay what's their due. So they are making raising the bar on how to treat well the creators.
And you mentioned NFTs, and I was thinking, you said since 2010 you've been working all digitally, and I know for a lot of creators, selling original art is a great way to supplement their income in the lean times. So is this something that has not really bothered you because you've been so successful, or do you still do the occasional cover or maybe a big splash page on board just to have something if you do go to a con and want to sell them?
Oh, I'm all digital now. Once in a while, like twice a year, I do two commission work for usually to clients of mine, old clients that I cannot say no. So, but because my vision is not that good nowadays, it's even better for me to work digitally. So if I have to work on paper, it's much more work I have to put on. And the NFT came to save us because this way we could sell digital original art and put a value on it, because there is a contract that says that is unique, and you have the one that is the original one. And but unfortunately, Marvel and DC thinks we don't deserve the rights. So, I still love them. I love the creative people at Marvel DC. The ones that make the business decision, those I don't love too much.
It's funny because no one ever says they love the lawyers who write the contracts.
Except our lawyers.
I was going to say, we have just a couple of minutes in our conversation left, and you're working all digitally. Now, are you providing files to a color artist, or are you doing all the color work yourself?
I wish I had the time to do the colors and letters and everything. Nowadays, I just do the pencils and inks, and the color work I leave it to better ones than me. I worked with several years with Rain Barredo, fantastic colorist at Marvel, and then Frank Martin Jr. And nowadays I have been working with Lee Loffridge at AWA Studios. All great professionals, way better than me. So.
And when you provide the art for them, do you give them notes about what you think the palette should look like, or how the lighting should read?
I used to be the terror of editors and colorists, and I would give notes and change this and then. But then I realized it's better to give space for them to make their own decisions, and I leave it to my own editors to find the little mistakes, and it works better when it's better you to find one you like and leave it alone. It's better.
If the folks watching at home wanted to find more of your work on the web, where could they find it?
Oh, go to awastudios.net. Everything mine I'm doing right now is there. And you're going to find a lot of other fantastic books there too.
Mike, I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to talk with me today. It's been a great half hour.
Thank you. It was great.
And everyone at home, I'd like to thank you for watching Comic Culture. We will see you again soon. Comic Culture is a production of the Department of Mass Communication at the University of North Carolina at Pembroke.